So who's up for a new buzzword? Data mesh is a buzzword that kind of invented in 2021, but it's getting attention more than before these days. Some predicted that it's going to be a big thing in 4 to 5 years. And it's about the scalability of data. So far in the whole software world, we have implemented and thought about ideas about making our software scalable, our services scalable, our teams and organizations scalable, but now it's data stir. Before we go to the details, I'm gonna categorize data in 2 categories just for the sake of this presentation: operational data and analytical data. Operational data is something like user has logged in, user sold everything, and user logged out, or there are other type of examples, but for sake of this presentation, you can consider this one as operational data. Analytical data is that it's the type of data that we perceive, we interpret from the raw operational data. In this case, we can maybe interpret that the user was not happy and the user might not come back at all. So this is analytical data. Okay, back to data mesh. Okay, data mesh is trying to show that there is a problem somewhere and tries to be the solution for it. But what's the problem? So nowadays we have a team. I mean, we as software companies, tech companies, that is maybe called AI, data, BI, something in this range. That consists of data people, data scientists, data analysts, and similar roles. And that team owns the analytical data, all of it, process it centrally, publish the results as a central unit. So all the data is kind of in a central place owned by that data team. And that data team uses some sort of tools and like stuff like data warehouse, data lake, cron jobs, and ETL pipelines to get that data, process it, and publish it. There are some problems with it. It seems that it's not as scalable as it can be. And one of the other famous problems that we might actually have faced is that you ask that, oh, okay, what's the result of that analyze that we do? And the answer is that it's not available yet. The data is not there in the data lake, so to say. It's gonna be there tomorrow. And in the picture, you can see an example of how things go in terms of, like, you can see it as an image. We have the raw operational data. The yellow part is just the normal data that we have in our databases, in the microservices. And there are some cron jobs and ETL pipelines that process the data and make it ready so that it can be saved in a big data lake. And then later, some machine learning trainings, maybe some warehouses built on top of that. So that's the current image of the world. So what is data mesh then in comparison? If I want to say it in a nutshell, data mesh is data mesh for data is what microservices was for monoliths. In the monolith world, when we wanted to make it scalable, we created microservices. In the data mesh world, we have data lake that's gonna be converted into rivers. It's gonna be more accessible, more like opposite of in REST. Like it's doing a lot of it's available. It's much more available. And in the monolith world, we had layered technology teams that we converted into cross-functional product teams. It's the same thing. We need the same transition for data mesh. And in the transition from monolith to microservices, we made a lot of things distributed. We try to do the same thing when it comes to data mesh and data. So the thing about data mesh is that this analytical data that we are talking about is not owned by a central team anymore. It's owned by the team that produces the operational data as well. So if a team is producing some operational data and you can perceive some analytical data out of it, the same team should own both of the data and APIs that produce that data. And in the new world, in the data mesh world, we consider analytical data as a product. It's not just a technical thing that is a fancy like tool. It's a product. So it's like, or let's say we have a page in Next that we use to request a loan. It's a product. Analytical data is a product in the same way. Product owners are involved in the process of defining it, for example. So how to do it? If you want to start going toward data mesh, first, of course, you need cross-functional product teams that actually include data scientists. So your data scientists are part of different teams. There is no central team of data scientists. And you need to start seeing domain-driven. It means that you need to know how to say that this data, this analytical data is related to this team and to this product. Like the way that you divide it is using domain-driven thinking. You need to define some governance policies because it's gonna be each team doing its own way if you don't define governance. One team might produce data in JSON, one team might produce data in another format. So you kind of need some governance on some aspects of your analytical data APIs, for example. You can standardize your date formats, your error formats, and the presentation format. You can keep it JSON, for example. And you need something like discoverability requirements. Discoverability in this case means that you have API documents, which we kind of have at the moment. And something else that you can try, which is kind of needed as a requirement before you go toward a data mesh, is that you start to produce immutable facts, events, when you do something like customer registers in Nordnet. If you will produce an event somewhere that say, okay, that customer at that time has registered. So this is a fact, it's not changeable, and you can drive a lot of views and interpretations out of it. I draw a line on these three ones because these are not relevant to the current state of Nordnet. If someone is interested about these three, we can talk later, just ping me. And as a final step in the way toward data mesh, after doing all these previous steps, then you start to define and implement analytical products that are based on analytical data, not just operational data. But there is a twist. We need to check actually if we need to use this scalability fancy solutions. Are we actually at the scale that needs such solutions? So far, it seems that the maximum request per second that we have actually experienced at Nordnet is 65 kilo requests per second in one of the openings. We haven't gone further. The time that I checked, average trades per day over a window of 20 days, it's less than 300K. And I don't know how much analyzable data is produced at the moment, at the peak times. So these are more of questions for us. It's like, are we there? Do we need something? It was about a scale. There is something else that you need to check before going toward data mesh, and that's your business model. You need to check, for example, if your business model is based on crowd serving, as opposed to just serving a minority of people in the whole population. And you also need to check if your business model is around producing products based on analytical data or only operational data. It means like if you're using analytical data in your product generation, that's one thing. The opposite, the other side of spectrum is that you're just a calculator. You just calculate some stuff using some logic, and you just keep some records. You just keep track of it in some database, and that's it. No offense to calculator, it has honor in implementing that. But if your products are around that, you're not gonna enjoy Datamesh that much. And also about cost. It's about cost. It's expensive because you're gonna need more data scientists at least. So yeah, these are questions for us. It's not that this buzzword is just nice and cool and we should just use it. No, there are questions that need to be asked before that. And that's it. If there are any questions, I'm